Hey, how's it going? Today is 8th of January, and we are taking a look at what kind of opportunities are available out there within the market. And I have covered quite a few of those. I was taking a look at if we were to begin right by setting up a company. Once we have a company, I was taking a look at the process would look like, right? And once we have a company, there are some incentives in different parts, pretty far north, I guess, of Scotland. There's two councils there. I have progressed into perhaps entire Scotland, and there was some financial incentives there. 70% of 10,000 potentially can be covered when you yourself be spending on your business within Scotland, right? And within this opportunity, let's take a look at Scottish Edge. And I haven't read it. It might be a great opportunity. Let's cover this in more detail and try to understand what this opportunity is all about. That's organization's website. I haven't read it, but perhaps there's something in there. We usually there's a bait there, right? So perhaps anything. There's some financial incentives in sourcing finance for your business, and it would be a startup funding. So there might be great opportunities. I haven't done anything, then it's around 23 open. So there's a number of those rounds there. Okay, and it says it would open February. That would be beginning of next month. So there might be some opportunities there where they would potentially helping in sourcing or solving different problems, beginning perhaps only with finance, but perhaps there's more opportunities there. Energy might be there. I don't know if a team, perhaps if it's young adults, professionals there, perhaps the energy might be there. And it's Scottish Edge, is Scotland's biggest business funding competition, offering grants and loans from 10,000 to 100,000 pounds to help you to start up social enterprise and charity. Okay. So I need to pick this one apart. I would highly recommend do not take out a loan. I don't know your personal circumstances, but I highly recommend do not take out a loan if you can. If you, perhaps there's grants available, right, as well as a social enterprise or charity. I don't know about perhaps, but not necessarily that my core audience are interesting. Perhaps it's good to do that. Good to give it back, but perhaps we were to take a look at perhaps I will do another round where I'm gonna be looking to set up perhaps some chart and we can do great things, right? But first, let's take a look at grants and what grants are available, and we're gonna be taking a look at startup grants, right? We can the next round we can take a look at charities and what the social enterprises are available there. There might be some incentives there. There might be great opportunities there, right? So if you yourself you might be interested in entering or what the process might look like, right? So there might be the people there. Myself, I've been working within Bristol area, the team there. Oh, it's it's challenging to say the least within my area. I don't know this area, right? Perhaps that's a way different team. So quick story, right? So I'm having a conference call with the team, right? And there was a woman and a gentleman there, right? So I have exactly the same qualification as a gentleman and have exactly the same qualification as a lady there. So I'm there. So we're not really necessarily, and it would be perhaps slightly younger, not the same age like myself. So not necessarily with years of expertise within industry. So that's overall feedback. So not necessarily they can offer anything new to me. So that's my own feedback on some of those opportunities and our competitions, right? But this one might be different, right? And we're taking a look at perhaps additional support available as well as how they would structure some of those offerings and perhaps supporting from younger adults and progressing into perhaps different something they would consider wild cards, right? But I think that's a concept that where there'd be something doing something different, but don't take a loan, don't risk it. And from there, we take a look at social, perhaps. There's opportunities there. Send me a check. I might do a better work and I will take a look and doing all the necessary things. But let's stick with 10-minute videos, right? Myself coming into this would perhaps begin of perhaps if there's a lot of natural resources like or renewables, we can do something perhaps in the North Sea, and but then I would need a license. I have reached out, I think, to some of the public servant or perhaps political figure within Scotland, perhaps receive a license before I can enter and or tackle energy prices within Scotland. So I have done that, or perhaps that will be my overall feedback. Since I'm taking part and I'm trying to do everything at the same time, ideally, I might be looking at manufacturing if I can, or perhaps growing something within Scotland, right? And once we have that ball rolling, right, we can come back and see how we can give back to community and or support younger entrepreneurs. We can come back to that. But first, let's get those things under way in the process, and then we'll come back. That would be perhaps the overall feedback how I would like to approach it. But again, I'll reach out to this team to see what the process might look like. If you yourself are interested, perhaps there's the options there, right? Perhaps I can touch on that, right? But that would be my own perspective or feedback on things, right? And if you can, do not take a loan. Try to do everything with your own knowledge, or perhaps improve your own knowledge, particularly in the beginning, right? So that's overall starting, right? And do not start with making commitments or getting yourself into the loan or the other responsibilities. Not necessarily. First, you wanna develop business model that would work, and then you would begin scaling. Perhaps then you can bring something to the bank and not necessarily give away percentage of your company. That's way better way of approaching. But either way, the opportunities are there, right? So if you would like to scale your model, then perhaps that would be a different kind of set of standards to go about it, right? That would be perhaps the way how I understand the Scottish Edge, right? From there, we're progressing to Young Edge. There are similar programs available in UK, by the way, based on age. It's I can't remember the name of the program, but either way, I'm not supported by any of those. But that would be for younger people getting involved, right? And that would be based on your age. If you're under 30, they might offer some incentives there of getting into business, right? And from there, wild cards. Perhaps I'll delve a little bit deeper into wild. We can touch on that. And perhaps social enterprises is something that's always good to do and or give back to community. But I don't know. It depends on the person, right? And if you're looking to build some, I don't know. It might be challenging. Perhaps it might be rewarding. But myself, I'll come back and perhaps touch on that in the future, not necessarily right now. Let's delve a little bit deeper into wild cards, and there might be some incentives that would be grants, not necessarily loans, and not necessarily with a percentage where it might be 100% grants. And if they are interested, if you could suggest a very great project, I guess. Even right now, I'm taking a look at there's only American-based technology companies up there. So not necessarily it could be one perhaps UK-based. So even that. So I need to put a project together. If I were to put something and send it to, I think there's a date next month. I think it was 7th, right? So if I'll do that, they might approve that. Great. So grant, there might be some 15,000. So can you hire a person with that? Can you? Again, so it's a different story. Food 15,000. How many people can you hire for how long? So there's different issues there, but there's perhaps some incentives there. Yourself, if you're interested in learning more, I have published the book Inflow. That would be structure of how to take a look at. Ideally, this is a tool or a system helping you into bringing your understanding what will require for you to succeed, right? And yourself, you might need to tackle some of the bigger problems to tackle some of those bigger ones. So that would be challenging on your routine and the way how you're managing your time. To address that, that would be 90 days, and that would touch on finances later. But in the beginning, perhaps starting slowly, touching on routines and constantly repeating and touching on the areas that will be very important. Within every 24-hour window, I have highlighted particular areas that will be very important for everyone to understand and do every single day. You can start with those and progress from there. There is a QR code in the corner, company's website below. let's do one nice and easy, right? So I'm taking a look at this competition, all the information. So we are working with a budget of 15,000, right? And there might be a judging panel, which is great. And then they, you're gonna be competing. You're gonna need to do a little dance, I guess. The people there. So not willy-nilly giving money away, I guess, which is great, right? And we can progress from there. So myself, based on core competence within the area, I might be interested in perhaps I'm interested in risk, to be honest. No, let's do salmon. Let's do salmon, but we can touch on risk as well, perhaps, if for people who are interested. It would be more of a challenge, but just for this video, let's do a friendly video where we perhaps we be looking at salmon and what we can be able to do with 15,000 quickly. Let's take a look at the project and how to structure a project. Let's break this project perhaps in two parts, right? That's a brief overview, right? I'm gonna be sharing a lot of opinions. Again, I don't know your personal circumstances. That's just some opinions, not necessarily that's for everyone, in particular for people who haven't done anything within this area, right? Scottish salmon might be very popular, so perhaps it's within the area and people might know what they're doing within that area, hopefully. So not some of those projects might not be very beginner friendly projects, right? Myself, I would be looking for perhaps business partner, so it's someone who knows what he's doing within this field of expertise, something that he was doing for quite some time, perhaps 10 years or so. If there is a person, feel free to chat to me. We can put something together, right? Once that been said, projects planned for salmon farm in Scotland. Project overview. Perhaps for 2 years or so, if you were able to source finance for 2 years, that would be great. And from there, we progress into project scope. That would be define the scale of the salmon farm, identify the target production volume, specify types of salmon to be cultivated. So they're saying salmon, but perhaps there's alternative species available as well. I can't remember the name of the fish, but that potentially can grow faster, and by taste, they might be very similar, not necessarily the same, but again, it depends who gonna be the target customers, who and where you're gonna be selling it, right? Restaurants or anything, or you're gonna be smoking it, many things, right? From there, we're progressing into equipment requirements, right? And that will be list essential equipment for salmon farming operations. That will be net, pens, cages, feeding systems, monitoring equipment, harvesting equipment, processing facilities, right? And again, your inventory, i.e., salmon, can be risk and diseases. So there's many things that can go wrong, right? So again, if not necessarily yourself, you need to know what you're doing, right? Additional costs, estimate operation cost for 2 years, there's potential there, feed costs, labor costs, licensing and regulatory compliance, maintenance and repairs, marketing and or sales expenses. So there's some costs there. Again, so it just put things into perspective. Sometimes if people would spend about 4 million on an equipment, perhaps they with cost free people or labor involved in operating that equipment. So if you yourself you're working perhaps with 30,000, so perhaps just one person in the beginning. From there, once you're building things up, right, and working from there, right. Let's touch perhaps on the risk, right? So that would be the biggest risk. Market demand fluctuations where you potentially have too much inventory. Things can happen, right? Or you need to time the market. Many things can happen. Or perhaps think about the way how you can increase lifespan, perhaps by smoking it, or perhaps using the same production for many different ways, right? From their diseases that might impact entire inventory, as well as environmental factors, water temperature changes. Since some of those fishes or species, something Pelia might be the name of it, might be less prone into temperature changes, right? So that's an example of the fish, right? Salmon can be more sensitive, right, to temperature changes. So and how you're planning of growing it within the cages in the water, something that's perhaps been done in different regions, not necessarily currently in Scotland. Again, how you would like to do it, right? From there, we're progressing into project timelines. It's something worth mentioning, and that is site preparation, equipment installation, stocking of fish, regular monitoring and maintenance, harvesting and processing, and from there we're progressing into monitoring and evaluation. KPIs, all of the necessary indicators, regulatory review, and just the project plan based on the performance metrics. Regulatory compliance, which would be very important, having all the permits and licenses before doing anything. Financial projections over years, and perhaps slowly starting from there, right? Stakeholder management and or perhaps marketing and or a pre-agree way of how you're planning of communicating with the stakeholders, or perhaps your clients can be the potential stakeholders, everyone involved, right? That's just a brief overview. That's just this overall example, right? Perhaps whiskey would sound and go great investment, but again, there's some karma attached. But that's the example for how to very briefly take a look at salmon and salmon production. I wish I could go a little bit perhaps in more detail, but I know personal circumstances. If it's something that you're interested, perhaps we're doing a lot more research in some of those fields, but that's how some of the projects are going to look like. But either way, there's going to be a panel. So that panel will decide if you have enough expertise, I guess. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next one.